Good morning. So, boy, this is going to be a long one. And I have to do a disclaimer first. If you are easily offended, just don't listen. This is a true story. And I don't really have it's not scripted. This is going to be very off the top of my head, so I might be all over the place with storytelling. And I always do like these, well, like, let me back up and explain how, because if you don't really know me personally, sometimes the story doesn't make sense, so I have to go off on tangents. Anyway, that's the disclaimer. So, if you look through my community tab, if you're a person that knows me a little bit or you're a regular subscriber, you will see that yesterday I spent time with both my sons, and that one of them had a birthday, and I mentioned his age in one of the posts. So, 33 years ago, when I had him, I lived in this exact house that I am in now. And at the time, this is like a small townhouse development. At the time, there were a lot of people my age living here, young families, young married couples. And it seemed like within a 6-month period, a huge percentage of people in this development all had babies. It was like every other house had a baby. And at the time, cordless phones were popular, but they didn't really have scramblers. I think back then they didn't even have cell phones, or they were really rare. And everybody had nursery monitors and cordless phones. And the way this development, the topography is the only word I could think of. It just seemed that the way everything was set up, people were picking up each other's nursery monitors, cordless phone things, and at the time, I was married to my ex-husband, and I can't really in good conscience give away what he did for a living and his background in the military. But let's just say he was good at certain things, besides getting me pregnant. We only had 2 kids, though. No, that's a whole other story. No, I mean, he was... Oh, God, now I'm getting distracted. Okay. So, I'm sorry. If you're really smart, you could read in between the lines. Okay. So, he had gotten a scanner. Screw the internet. Screw TV. This scanner. Wow. So what happened was, at the time, people were picking up each other's nursery monitors and phone conversations. And let's just say there was a neighbor whose house was close to mine. Oh my God. Truth is stranger than fiction. Excuse me. Okay. And I have to edit what I'm saying because I don't want to offend people and I don't want to be disrespectful. So let your imagination run wild, okay? But I can't really say things. I'll just hint things. So, at the time that I was married and, had a young family here, there were nursery monitors, there were all these things going on, and people were hearing each other's stuff. I mean, you know. So at one point, someone who was near to my house, um, the wife was having an affair. This is just one of. I, I was really naive. When I was growing up, and when I was younger, and my parents, I guess they were just all goody two-shoes and very straight-laced. So, what happened is, we were hearing, I would have to do several videos on this. We found out that the person close by, the wife, was having an affair, and she had an ongoing history, it seems. The way she would work it is, she would wait until her husband got her pregnant. So she was sure that it was her husband's child and that she was pregnant, so she didn't have to worry about getting pregnant. And as soon as she was pregnant with her husband's child, she would have an affair. At least 2 times I knew of was with a coworker. So, this was happening during the Winter Olympics, and this is when Nancy Kerrigan got hit on the knee, and there was all that stuff with Tonya Harding. And what happened was, around that time, on Christmas Day, we went into Ozone Park, Queens, New York, on Christmas to see my parents. And the way my parents had it, they were just a little strange. They were like from, Europe. I've told the whole story. One was an immigrant, one was a refugee. They were paranoid, blah, blah, blah. And they didn't want me having a key to their house, which was odd because, I was very, nerdy. I never got in trouble, straight A student, honors, or a scholarship for college, all of that. I mean, it was, obnoxious how nerdy I was. And in some ways, I still am. So, but they knew that when we had come a distance to see them, they might not be home, or they were at church and they were running late or whatever. So what they did was they gave me a key. They had an automatic garage door opener that my father installed. My father was like Mr. Fix-It, Mr. Handyman. My father did all these he built a shed in the yard, blah, blah, blah. They had a garden. They grew all kinds of things. Some of you that are listening will understand. So anyway, he gives me a key to the garage door opener, but I didn't have the remote. I don't even know if they had a remote. It was like a lock that was up on the top left-hand side of the garage, and if you put the key in, the garage door would open. Now, my father had made the basement into a finished basement, and many Ukrainian and Polish and Eastern European people, when they get a house, one of the first things they do is they make a second kitchen in the basement. It's like a certain generation, they all had a kitchen in the basement and a family room and a half bath, and they didn't want to mess up the kitchen upstairs. A lot of these people had new houses. They didn't buy an old fixer-upper. They went and got a new house with a basement, and they kept that house in excellent condition because they did everything in the basement. In fact, this is an aside. There's a movie that's based on one of Gene Shepard's novels. He's the one that did A Christmas Story, Gene Shepard. He's famous for A Christmas Story. He did a sequel or two to that family, and one of them was called Ollie Hopnoodle's Haven of Bliss, and one of the characters in the movie is him as a teenager, and he's romantically involved with a Polish girl, an Polish-American girl, and he said, they were all cooking in the basement. So that's an aside that kind of confirms what I'm telling you. All right, this is really a long-winded story. So anyway, they had a half bathroom, they had a kitchen, a washing machine, a family room, a workshop. Basically, you could survive. There was like a refrigerator. I think they had like 3 refrigerators in the basement. Tons of canned food, non-perishable food, food in the refrigerator. And that's in addition to the upstairs. And they had a lock on the door that goes from the staircase to go up from the basement to the... And their basement was like almost ground level. Okay, so anyway, then the only thing is, like, you couldn't get into the second floor, which is where they lived most of the time when they weren't living in the basement. So that door was locked. So, like, they had it so that, like, if, you know, they knew that I had the kids, like, if we went there and they were running late or whatever, they didn't want us to be cold or hot or not have a bathroom to use or whatever. So I was allowed to go in to the basement, which was like a separate apartment almost, like a separate living space, anytime I wanted, because the bathroom was there was food, there was water, there was, you know, everything you needed. Like if you had to, if something happened and there was an emergency and I had to wait 3 hours for them to get home, you know, you could have your own party down there. In fact, that basement had many a party, good parties. So, oh God, I have a million stories. So, where am I going with this? The nursery monitor. Why am I off on a tangent? Okay, yes, now I remember. Christmas morning. I'm trying to remember the year. I believe it was 1993. Okay, Christmas morning. We go into Queens for Christmas, Ozone Park. My parents are still at the Ukrainian church. Sometimes these things at their church ran on, and all these people knew each other. They came from the same village in Ukraine, or we all went to each other's weddings of their children and blah, blah, blah. So after church, they would like talk for like at least an hour. They were like a real tight-knit group. And so we get there, and, you know, I have the key. They're not home. And all I remember is I remember what I was wearing. And I was dressed nicely for Christmas, and so were the kids. And they weren't home. And the kids, my older son had a cough. That's what I remember now. And my ex-husband got really mad because we were outside on the main floor by the front door ringing the bell, and my son was coughing, and my ex-husband was getting really mad, and he started making this face, like twisting his face up, and I knew what was going to come. There was going to be a big fight, like as if somehow I had caused all of this, whatever. And so I got really nervous, and I said, well, let me get the key, and we'll go in, and we'll wait downstairs or whatever, because he was like, where the hell are they? They knew we were coming, blah, blah, blah. And he loved my parents. They got along good, but it was just like, that's how he was. He was very testy back then. Too much testosterone, if you get my drift. So, you know, here it is, like I was like the one that was always like walking on eggshells, tiptoeing, and, you know, oh, I got the key, let's go in downstairs or whatever, right? And so I go down, and they had a steep driveway. This is what I recollect. I went down. I don't remember if I put the key in or if it was before or after. There was a tiny patch of ice, the size of a quarter maybe. And I ended up slipping. And as I was slipping, I was afraid of falling and like ripping my new clothing that I had on or hurting myself. So I tried to throw myself in the opposite direction. And I heard and felt a horrible snapping sound. And the end result was that I broke my ankle on Christmas Day in the morning. Play that song in the background. So now I'm on the floor, screaming in pain, on the concrete, in the cold, on Christmas morning, screaming my head off. A lot of this is sketchy because of the pain. And I'm going to wrap this up so I can move forward. So anyway, the bottom line was I ended up in a hospital Christmas Day in the morning. in a temporary cast with some painkiller, and I was supposed to see an orthopedic person as soon as possible, closer to where I lived, blah, blah, blah. So I ended up being in a cast with a broken ankle on Christmas and through New Year's and after that. And it was a really difficult time in my life. But so I'm recovering, and I have 2 young children. One of them is basically a toddler, an older toddler. Boys, very active. I had no family or anyone up there to help me. We actually had to hire someone to come in and help like every other day for a few hours because I couldn't do it. And, he had to go to work. So, but this is all an aside. So, it was like that old Jimmy Stewart movie, Alfred Hitchcock movie Jimmy Stewart starred in, Rear Window. The guy is laid up with a cast on his leg. He's looking out the window. He's got binoculars, blah, blah, blah. So I was really bored, and it was a weekend. I went into the spare bedroom. At the time, it was the spare bedroom. Or I don't know if the younger one slept there at that time, but I was bored, and I remember sitting on his bed with my leg up, and there had been like a lot of snow, and people were out shoveling, and so I was bored, and there was no internet, and I was sitting on a single bed with my leg up, because they told me to put my leg up, the leg in the cast, and I know there was always a camera around with film, because I had kids, and I was always taking pictures with the kids, of the kids, of them doing a million cute things. So, in the bedroom, spare bedroom, which faces out the front, and the camera's there, and I'm just bored, and everyone's shoveling snow, and I think I might have been taking pictures, like, through the window, like, of, like, the snow, people shoveling. Well, this particular neighbor, her husband worked weekends. She had a new baby, and her husband leaves. Her best friend comes 3 minutes later, takes her kids. She leaves. 3 minutes after that, a good-looking man pulls into the driveway. So typical, gets out of the car, looks around to see if anyone's looking around at him, very suspicious, goes in the house. He's there for at least an hour, maybe 2 hours tops, leaves, like clockwork. A couple minutes after he leaves, the friend comes back with the kids and then stays or whatever. So, through the nursery monitor and the scanner that my ex-husband had, we found out she had an affair with her co-worker. It started when she was pregnant, and they used to meet in the parking lot and have sex in the parking lot. It was all through her pregnancy. And the last encounter that they had was in the parking lot when she was 9 months pregnant. And I guess he must have poked the baby's head, because then she went home, her water broke, and she ended up having the baby. And what I heard over that nursery monitor, I probably should do a little series of what I heard and things like that. It's really rated X. Anyway, and then down the road, how the husband found out and they got divorced and all the drama that went on. And that we were afraid the husband was going to kill the wife, and how we went to defuse it, or that the wrong man was being accused of being her boyfriend, and how an innocent man was going to get killed. And it all came out at the end. Oh my God. This is like, how many years ago? I think like 30 years ago. I think they had an ongoing affair, to tell you the truth, for a few years. But anyway, truth is stranger than fiction. That was the whole point of the story, is that we watch these TV shows or we hear this drama. There's a drama community on YouTube where they tell all these crazy stories and who's having an affair with who, or who met who, or who was texting or sexting or what. Personally, if I'm going to cheat, I want to bump uglies. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want pictures. I don't want phone sex. If I'm going to do something, God damn it, I'm going to do it. Otherwise, it's not worth it. See, back in the day, they didn't have all this internet. They really did it. I'm going to tell more stories. I almost forgot about this. But anyway, I think I'm going to start spilling my guts on all kinds of people. And I dropped a few hints. I've got to say, I have never been unfaithful to my ex-husband or anyone that I was involved with. But the reason why I was laughing and getting distracted at the beginning is, the one thing I can say about my ex-husband, I don't know if he knows about this channel and listens. Well, I'm going to admit to something personal. We did have a very good sex life. And that's why I put up with him for years. Anyway, everyone, have a great day. I'm going to be laughing the rest of the day. I have to start making a list and a format of how I tell these stories, because I get distracted when I start remembering things and start laughing. Bye.